numbers of complaints are absolutely astronomical. Transcript benchmarks are not showing. If they have an athletic waiver, or maybe they took Hope in middle school, it is still showing that they need the credit. So when they send the transcripts to the college, it shows they're not even going to meet their benchmark for graduation. That's unacceptable. When you're doing a progression plan, people progression plan, one class per student, we need to meet the FTE requirements. We have no idea because we can't even get proper attendance. We have no idea what's going on. When they are doing, and they're part of one of the sections, it's called the walk-in schedule. And so there's multiple. You go to change a schedule and it takes 15 minutes to adjust one class. Completely unacceptable. But when you're doing a walk-in schedule, you have to go to like 3 screens in just to find out where the class number is. But a guidance counselor, before they can move it, they need to know how far they're going to have to go from one class to another. Classroom numbers on there. There's no guarantee because you don't even show on there, like, is it 25, 2 of the 25 are full? Is that actually an accurate number when there's 3 openings? None of this is happening. Guidance counselors are running after their tail over and over and over again. And we as a district are not making any improvements. They are begging us to drop this system, begging us. As we walk through the doors, they are begging us. Today, they have different ones where, I think I'm making sure I've lost my track. At the end of the day, these systems are not working. And when we hear that transcripts are corrected, they're not. When we hear people can get access to IEPs, not in every class. So when we actually hear that they're actually fixed, they're not. Now you want to bring in a new system to revamp our IT department to move forward. How can we move forward when both of our systems aren't even working properly? It's just absolutely unreasonable that Synergy, after all this time, 5 years, as you corrected me, Dr. Weeks, we still don't have it working properly. And the only people that are suffering because of this are our staff and our students. And it's going to be our district that's going to be suffering if we can't get our counts right for our finances. This is huge problems, and I'm not going to vote for any system when we have the current leadership that we do. It's not going to happen.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Hahn?
Thank you, Member Perez. Member Rendon brings up some very real concerns that impact our students and our staff every day. And I am concerned about what happens when we get to the first date, the first count, in October. And if that's not correct, we could lose millions of dollars. And so, that is right up front for my first concern, my biggest concern. If you could walk us through your rationale for this contract, just walk the board and the public through the rationale. Thank you.
Certainly, Dr. Hahn. So what I'd like to say is that really Gartner came to us not in relation to Synergy. Gartner is really a research firm that helps us, or helps technology constituents in general, to evaluate products and services from a multitude of vendors. Gartner isn't going to look specifically at Synergy. However, when I reached out to them as we were engaging prior to this board meeting, I mentioned some of the challenges that we had with Synergy, and they identified that they have a national practice lead that devotes specifically to schools with Synergy. So they said, we'll put you in touch. And that was even before, we knew that, we still don't know whether or not this will be approved, but they agreed that they would actually have the conversation. So, Gartner itself is really to help us to understand how to move forward as a district, to vet the plans that we have in place, to examine and evaluate future products and services. Gartner would have been fantastic, again, 5 years ago when we're undergoing the evaluation process because of the type of research they bring to the table.
So what are the deliverables at the end of this? What specifically are you going to gain? What are the deliverables of this product or service?
So outside of just interaction with practice professionals, such as their Synergy practice lead, we'll also be having them vet plans like our strategic IT plan. We will also be looking at, as we look at new products and services, for the next year or so. We're about to start looking at replacing some of the hardware that's aging. We utilize and will rely on some of their information to ensure that we're looking at the most effective path forward.
Why don't we have that expertise to do that within our own, within your department, to do all the things you just mentioned? I mean, you write a strategic plan, you've written the strategic plan for the district. You didn't have an outside company come and review it. Why isn't that expertise, why does there have to be that kind of, reassurance from an outside source?
So one of the things that was identified as part of the Recover Forward effort from last August incident was basically not reinventing the wheel, utilizing partners where we can to help move efforts forward. We are creating the strategic plan, as you said, internally. However, it doesn't hurt to have somebody evaluate it from a more holistic viewpoint. They have a large education network where they have individuals focused on education, K through 12 across the country. So they will look at and evaluate the work product that we're looking to deliver compared against what they've seen nationally and in some cases globally. So we do have some of that expertise. We continue to rely on that expertise. However, we do also have limited resources. So rather than reinvent the wheel in many cases, we would look at leveraging somebody else who's already undergone the effort.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Hahn. Member Gray?
I think, and thank you, Madam Chair, what happens is we've lost the confidence of the leadership in the technology arena. Because what happens now when we go to school is the principals, the staff, the teachers, they have lost a lot of the enthusiasm, the energy to push forward with their day-to-day teaching and running a school. And they're drained. And then we know that this particular program, huge, was bought under Superintendent actually Jeff Akins, the superintendent. And we know also that we probably needed a year at least for training the teachers and the administrators, at least a year. And we know that we should have had a pilot so some of these issues could have been detected and answered. And we also know we need a work group because everything is in silos with Synergy. One work group, this would be grade level, elementary, middle, high school. One would be for administrators, one would be for teachers, and one would be even for secretaries. The accessibility also is a problem because I have one secretary in the school board that has access, the others don't. And I'm not talking the head secretary. So, willy-nilly is happening. I know that's a, old-fashioned word. But what's happening, too, the confidence is gone. And I can't stay and say here that I'm going to want to spend more money on another, this may help, when in fact it's the divisions, it's each division, they must own, yes, this is a challenge, but they must own the willingness to learn it. And in turn, what's happened to them, they had no time given, and now we're asking them to take the little bit of time they might have in their day without pay to do small classes, when in fact these forms are so long and integral in detail, it just won't occur. It's unrealistic. So Dr. Weeks, I have to tell you, and I'm agreeing with some of the board members, their comments, that I don't want to support yet another investiture of something that we don't know. It's only by coincidence that they have they are saying to you verbally, yes, we can help with synergy. That's a coincidence. It's not a strategic move. And with $122,000, that I would want, and the board, I'm sure, expects a strategy directly. So I hired this Gartner because they can help with putting together work groups to help them fill out forms according to their division. You know, I would want that kind of statement, that definitive statement, problem, goal, solution. You know, problems are a lot. What's the goal and what is the solution? Because right now, I don't hear solutions, and I certainly don't find that paying for another consulting group is a solution. So that's my rationale for negating it, and you're free to speak on that, of course. Would you want to reply?
I appreciate everything that you've said, Member Gray, and in many cases, you and the other board members are not wrong. The product itself is a challenge for us, but you know, we continue to work with the vendor. We continue to work with our internal constituents to make it better. Again, that's the best I can say on that. Gartner was not. Gartner's not being brought in like some of the other partners that we brought in to address like the Infor issues. They're not being engaged to tackle a specific issue. Gartner is a very wide-reaching organization and one of the most trusted when it comes to validating technology. So that's the only thing I'll say about that.
Yeah, I acknowledge that. So what we do know is this synergy is here to stay. So, and the onus, of course, Superintendent Van Ayers will be moving forward on corrective procedures, if that's the right word. And I look forward to it. I believe the board will also. And I'm certainly thinking that our staff, teachers, et cetera, will be looking forward to solutions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Gray. Member Washington.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Weeks, my question is kind of simple. Do we not have the expertise in-house to make it go?
We are learning just the same as everybody else.
Okay.
I mean, that's the most honest answer I can give.
Okay.
You know, the staff that we have that are working on this project, some of them have been working long-term. Mm-hmm. Some of them have been only working on it 2 or 3 years. However, the difference between the system that we went from to the system that we've gone to, the system we went from, we designed. We understood it intimately. We had the keys to the kingdom when it came to the ability to modify that program directly. This is an off-the-shelf program. We have limited insight into it from a functional perspective, and we have even less accessibility to it from a technical back-end perspective. When something needs to be changed, it has to go through EduPoint for the most part. We can change basic configuration settings, but we can't change it under the hood.
So in other words, the company, the people that you want to use, can they help you be productive in that?
For this specific incident, that is not their forte. They're not going to help us under the hood. The only people that can help us with EduPoint in addressing EduPoint problems is EduPoint. You know, Synergy is their product. They are the only ones that can truly work under the hood of that product.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Washington. Member Combs.
Thank you. You know, I feel similar. I can't continue continuing to put money in products that we just don't know what's happening. I think the one thing that's important is, you know, when we talked to Synergy the other day, when I spoke to them, you know, Fairfax, there's been counties where they've had as large as us, and their performance, we know there's a problem with performance, but at the end of the day, the biggest problem that we had was the implementation of this. You know, even during many of the sessions, summer sessions, a lot of Synergy there wasn't a big plan of implementation. And some of the issues that have occurred is people don't know how to use this properly. And they're in school, they're dealing with challenges at school, they're dealing with students in front of them, they're dealing with parents in front of them, and in the meantime, they're trying to learn a program. So to always look at the performance issue, no. The biggest issue was the implementation. I think it was implemented poorly. I don't think the plan went all the way down, and people still don't know how to use that. So instead of spending the money on looking at someone to look at products, I would like for you to spend more of that time looking at how can we implement it? What do we have to do? Do we have to have payrolls? Do we have to give, hours for people? Do we have to use some of our fund balance? What do we have to do to make sure that people are being trained properly? Because one of the things that they said is some people, they're not doing it correctly, so it's tying up the performance because they're maybe requesting something that would have asked one time and it looks like they asked 200 times. So for you to say that it's the synergy, well, it worked in Fairfax, Virginia. It was almost as large as us, and it hasn't been an issue. Maybe the product's not perfect, but the biggest issue is implementation, and I want you to continue looking at how we can implement this and giving us updates on how this is implemented. Because today I was with a group of teachers, and when I said synergy, there was such an energy, and it wasn't a positive energy. So it is very difficult when people are dealing with so many challenges at the school level, and on top of that, they're dealing with a product that is challenging. But remember, I think the idea of saying performance, no, it was the implementation and the time you should be spending time on how can I implement this better? How can I train better? What can I do to make sure that these teachers are ESE, our APs, they're so frustrated. And so I am not going to support anything until I see a strong implementation.
Thank you, Member Combs. Member Rendon?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two of my biggest concerns about where we stand on synergy right now is our attendance. It is so manually divisive. Once that bell rings and it's the last part of the day, for example, for high school at 8:30, attendance is where it's at. Every single student that walks in the door after 8:30 or whatever, it has to be manually changed, but it can't. You have to go back multiple screens and you have to go back certain ways. So that's why we're not correct. That's why we're not accurate. And then we don't even know what's being entered is accurate. So they're actually taking physical head counts. And also some of their rosters will show a student that was removed from the class and put in another class, but it still shows on their roster. So there's no accuracy at all. So that's my number one. And it's a safety concern. It's a numbers concern, and it's a financial concern. My second concern is one of the biggest problems we have right now is making sure that our families are getting clear communications. And as of right now, if we've not gone into an individual record and marked the little tip mobile, they're not getting their communications from our schools. And in today's world, that is absolutely unacceptable. And the response from this district is for our schools to go in to manually click because it didn't pull over from the other system. Not acceptable. They do not need to take out their time in their day of providing education, safety, and security to our students to go into the computer system that should have been done by this district. And so I think my question is, when is enough going to be enough? When is the deadline are we going to set that if these things, the communication and our attendance are not correct at a minimum, let alone all the list of hundreds of other issues we're having, where's the deadline of this district that we're going to say enough is enough and we're going to put teachers and students first?
Right. I'll tell you, it's getting pretty close. I have not set a deadline yet. We are working through the process right now with Synergy, and it's a multitude of problems that have caused the culture within this district for people to just be frustrated over this new student information system. So that deadline date has not been set yet, but it is caused, it has caused in this district issues for our teachers and staff. Remember, this is a system that everybody uses. So the frustrations then start to perpetuate throughout this entire school district. So Ms. Rendon, to answer you directly, I'm getting close to that point of determining what is that and then what are those then next steps around this student information system.
As a board member,
yes, ma'am.
I can't speak about my other board members, but as far as this board member is concerned, I am looking for the next week to have a deadline, because we're starting on the 18th to be looking at all of our, I'm sorry, I thought my mic is on. Oh, sorry. As this board member, like I said, I can't speak for anyone else, but I'm looking for the next week for you to have an answer to exactly when your decision is, because it is completely unacceptable that we can't get good numbers and not know where students are. It's completely unacceptable. That is my biggest concern when we impact the health and safety of this district, and we are. So I'm looking for, you've got 7 days to be able to get me a date. I almost think that's almost too late because we're going to already start looking at numbers, start turning in things, and we can't even assume that the information we're providing is accurate. So, but we're here. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Rendon. Member Vaughn?
Thank you, Chairwoman, Chairperson. I'm glad that you addressed this because my question was to you, Superintendent Ayers, while Dr. Weeks, I know that you didn't sign up for this. You are the Chief of Technology, so of course the frustrations are going to fall with you. But I know we've spoken a lot about it, and there's lots of different departments that are all part of this project. I agree implementation and training could have been handled differently. Those are questions I always have and always address. However, it's your responsibility at this point, right? And while I understand the frustration goes to Dr. Weeks, we are looking to you as the superintendent and the leader of this district to take some ownership of this and give us some direction on this. And so I'm glad that you're answered. I'm glad that Member Rendon asked for more of a clear timeline on this because, again, I think every single one of us as board members have gone into schools and said, what's your biggest ask? What's the thing we can help you with? And the synergy problem is unacceptable and never ending. And I mean, causes so many problems. Again, you know, firsthand, my son's trying to get access to his 504, so his teachers understand his accommodations as a board member has been almost impossible with Synergy, and we keep getting told that things are fixed, and they're not. So again, you know, I'm looking at the entire cabinet who has any piece that fits into Synergy that might have it, you know, a piece of this along with your leadership. And yes, I'm absolutely holding Dr. Weeks accountable, but we as a district need to do something about this, not just Dr. Weeks. So I'm glad that you took ownership of this, and I'm glad there's a timeline on it, and I think we're all looking for some resolution on this. And that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Vaughn. Seeing no further comments or questions, please vote when your lights appear. And it fails. So unanimously. Now we will take employee input, even though we hear public comment at the beginning of the meeting. It's sometimes difficult for employees of our district to attend meetings at 4. There are many ways for employees to make their voices heard, including through union representatives, emails, phone calls, one-on-one conversations, and public comment at the beginning of the meeting. The board wants to hear from you. With this session of our agenda, we are creating another avenue for employees to speak to the board. We are setting aside 30 minutes for employees of the district to speak to the board about any issues that are on your mind. It is not intended to be a discussion about specific agenda items on tonight's agenda, but rather an opportunity for you to speak to the board about any issues related to your job or the district. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. I will now call the first and only speaker.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Rob Crete, CTA. It's good to see everyone again. I hate to be the guy that's going to jump off the top rope and hit the Synergy in the middle of the ring, but that's really what I'm here to talk about. So you guys, I think, have hit it pretty hard. The employees are frustrated. They're looking for answers, and so a couple things, recommendations I would make is let's communicate with them about where we're at, where we're going, and what the plan is. And then we know that certain positions are being required to do some extra work to kind of get caught up on it. They're burning the midnight oil to get it done. You all clearly you're all hearing about it as well. So let's find a way to compensate them for doing those jobs and doing those tasks to make sure that we're compliant where we need to be. So with that, I don't like to jump off the top rope on these things. So I think that you guys have really handled it sufficiently. So with that, I'd just like to say thank you for all of your commitment to our students in schools. You guys are doing a great job. I'd like to thank all of the employees out there that are doing an amazing job and continue to do a great job. We've lowered our DNF schools. Congratulations, Superintendent. And it's really because of the great work that our employees are doing. And I would also like to say thank you to Chief Newman and the great job that he and his team are doing for our students in our schools out there every day. So thank you again, and we'll see you soon. Stay safe.